Start this playback, please.
What happens when a pilot does everything right,
The more you fly, the better you'll get.
but the airplane refuses to listen?
Sir, I still cannot push it down.
Push down more. That's crazy. What's the matter with this?
A routine landing suddenly turns into a cockpit mystery.
It's over!
Pilots push the controls forward, yet the aircraft climbs higher. A system designed to reduce human error creates confusion instead, and in just seconds, a normal flight becomes one of aviation's most puzzling disasters. Narrator pause, quote, incoming. A captain, in the final moments, said, "What's the matter with this?" Narrator resume. And today we are going to understand exactly what that meant. To understand how a routine landing turned into such a complex situation, we need to go back to that evening in Nagoya. It is April 26, 1994. A scheduled international flight departs from Taipei, heading toward Nagoya, Japan. On board are 271 people, passengers returning home, families, business travelers. The aircraft is an Airbus A300, a symbol of modern aviation at the time. Highly automated, efficient, designed to make flying safer and more precise. By the 1990s, the aviation world had begun placing growing trust in computer systems. Automation was no longer just assistance, it was becoming central to flight operations. And for most of this journey, everything goes exactly as planned. But in the final 3 minutes, something unexpected changes everything. Picture this. The aircraft is just minutes away from landing. The runway is in sight. The descent is steady. Only light turbulence disturbs the air, something pilots handle every day. Inside the cockpit, the captain makes a routine decision. He allows the first officer to take control manually, a common practice to build experience. At first, everything is stable. Then suddenly, something changes. The engines surge. The aircraft stops descending. Instead, it begins to level off. At the exact moment it should be moving downward, the pilots react immediately. They push the control column forward, trying to bring the nose down, but nothing happens. They push harder, still nothing. Narrator pause, quote incoming. The first officer says, "Sir, I still cannot push it down." Narrator resume. Think about that for a moment. In a situation where every second matters, the aircraft is not responding as expected. The crew attempts to regain control. They reduce power, adjust inputs, try to stabilize the descent. But now, the aircraft is no longer following a normal landing path. Recognizing the instability, the captain makes a critical call. They initiate a go-around. This is a standard safety maneuver. Climb, reposition, and attempt landing again. But this time, something is different. As power increases, the aircraft climbs, but far too steeply. The angle increases rapidly, speed begins to drop. The situation is escalating, fast. What should have been a recovery maneuver is now becoming something far more complex. And at this point, no one in the cockpit fully understands why. At first, it looked like a simple handling issue. But investigators would soon discover that the aircraft itself was following a completely different set of commands. Now, here is where it gets interesting, because the problem was not just the pilots. It was the system they were interacting with. During the approach, something subtle happened. The first officer unintentionally activated a function called go-around mode, also known as toga. This mode is designed to do one thing: immediately prepare the aircraft to climb. When activated, the system increases engine power and adjusts the aircraft's balance to raise the nose. Under normal conditions, this is helpful, but in this case, it created a hidden conflict. The pilots were trying to land, pushing the nose down. At the same time, the aircraft's computer was doing the opposite, pushing the nose up. Two inputs, two opposing commands, and the pilots didn't realize the system was still active. Narrator Puez. Quote incoming. An investigator later explained, there was a conflicting operation between the computer and the pilots. Narrator resumes, the aircraft was essentially caught between human control and automated logic. And here is the critical detail. The autopilot had authority. Even as the pilots pushed forward, the system continued adjusting the aircraft upward. This created a situation where the harder the pilots tried to correct it, the more resistance they encountered. Time was running out, altitude was decreasing, speed was becoming unstable, and inside the cockpit, confusion was growing. Because the real issue was not visible, it was hidden inside the logic of the aircraft itself. But that leads to an even deeper question. Why didn't two trained pilots recognize what the aircraft was doing? To answer that question, we need to look at the people inside the cockpit. The captain was experienced, with decades of flying behind him. But there was a detail that mattered. He was relatively new to this specific aircraft. The Airbus A300. The first officer, on the other hand, was young, still early in his airline career. This combination was not unusual, but in this situation, it became critical. Now, consider this. Their training environment did not perfectly match the real aircraft. The captain had trained on a simulator in another country, but that simulator behaved differently. In training, pushing the controls forward could override the automated system. In the real aircraft, it did not. So when the situation became stressful, the captain relied on what he had learned, and that expectation did not match reality. At the same time, cockpit communication played a role. The captain led strongly. The first officer followed. There was limited back and forth discussion. In high-pressure situations, this kind of imbalance can reduce clarity, and under stress, something very human happens. People fall back on what they already know. Narrator pause, quote incoming. An investigator later stated, "I don't think either one of these pilots really understood what this was." Narrator resume. This wasn't about lack of effort. Both pilots were actively trying to recover, but they were working with incomplete understanding under extreme time pressure. And that combination can lead to critical confusion. But what makes this story even more significant is this. This wasn't the first time this system had confused pilots. What happened on this flight was not entirely new. In the years before, other crews had experienced similar difficulties with the same aircraft system. Not identical situations, but similar patterns: confusion around automation, unexpected system behavior, difficulty overriding certain modes. Manufacturers were aware of these concerns. In fact, a modification had already been developed. This update would allow pilots to override the system more easily during a go-around situation. It was a significant improvement. But there was one issue. The update was not mandatory. Airlines could choose when to implement it. In this case, the aircraft had not yet received the modification. That decision, whether operational or logistical, meant the aircraft continued operating with its original system design. And there was another layer. The system itself was complex. The procedures to disengage certain modes were not always intuitive. In a calm environment, they could be followed, but under pressure, with seconds to react, clarity becomes much harder. Narrator pause, quote incoming. An investigator reflected, "It's unfortunate they didn't take previous incidents and learn from them." Narrator resume. This moment highlights something important. A system can function exactly as designed and still create confusion if not fully understood. In the end, this wasn't just about one flight. It changed how the entire industry approached automation. The story of this flight is not about a single mistake. It is about a combination of factors: human decisions, system design, training gaps, and timing. Each one on its own might not lead to a serious outcome, but together, they created a situation that was incredibly difficult to manage. In the years that followed, changes were made. Aircraft systems were updated to allow clearer manual control. Training programs evolved to focus more on understanding automation. Pilots were taught not just how to operate systems, but how to interpret them under pressure. And perhaps, most importantly, the industry began to rethink the relationship between humans and machines. SOC can assist. It can improve precision. It can reduce workload. But it must also remain transparent, because when a system becomes difficult to understand, it can create more questions than answers. And this is the thought to carry with you. Technology does not replace human judgment. It works alongside it. And when that balance is lost, even the most advanced systems can lead to unexpected outcomes. So the next time you think about modern technology, ask yourself, do we fully understand the systems we trust the most?